Hello. Welcome everybody to Cleveland State University. You may have been here for the first two panels today. If not, welcome for sure. We are here today to talk about short film production and distribution, carried away briefly. And we have 5 panelists here that are joining us. My name is Denny. I'm an instructor here at Cleveland State University. I teach film and media classes. I'll start with introductions of each of our panelists, each of our filmmakers from the festival, and then I'll have a series of questions for them. And it should take, some of the time here, but then once we're through my questions and everyone's all warmed up, hopefully you've come up with some questions of your own, and we'll open it up to the floor. And feel free to ask anything that is of interest to you, to our filmmakers. Okay. To the far right, my far right, the last person on the end there is Shawn. Shawn Christenson. He's the writer, director, editor, and an actor, also in his 2012 short film Curfew, which played at the festival. The film also played at Tribeca. Shawn has written and directed 2 other short films prior to Curfew, 2006's Walter King and 2010's Brink. Brink also played at Tribeca. He's written the feature film Enter Nowhere in 2011, and he recently sold a screenplay to Fox Searchlight entitled Sydney Hall, and he's attached to direct that film. He's also a songwriter. He was in the band Stella Star, and that band's songs have been used in TV series such as One Tree Hill, and also in the film from 2006, Aquamarine, and that's just to name one. There's several films, many films his band songs have been included in. Seated next to Shawn is Christina Grozik. She is the director, writer, producer, casting director, and also an actress in the short film Dark Before Dawn, also from the festival. Christina was born and raised in the Vermilion area and has worked in various roles in film, including production coordinator, location scout, and casting assistant for both independent and Hollywood film productions, such as the upcoming Avengers, 2007 Spider-Man 3, 2002's Welcome to Collinwood, and The O in Ohio and Beautiful Ohio, which were both from 2006. Christina also serves as the director of the Ohio Film Office, which oversaw many other films shot here in the state of Ohio. Seated in the center here is Joseph Jurecki. Thank you for waving. His short film was remarkable. He was the co-writer and co-director of the film. Joseph works professionally in the commercial production in the Cleveland area, boasting major clients such as LRMR. He is also a graduate of Cleveland State University's film program and is currently completing his thesis here in the School of Communication in our master's program. Remarkable marks his first foray into the Cleveland International Film Festival. So welcome to Joseph. Seated next to Joseph and 2 away from me is Regine Richards. Regine was born in Athens, Greece, to a family of filmmakers, including her parents, her grandfather, etc. She attended acting school in Paris, France, and then moved to Los Angeles in 2000. Regine completed this film, her first short, as a part of an 8-week filmmaking program. The film is Some Things Are Worse Than Being Gay from 2011. She's the director and writer of the film. The film has now been selected by 21 film festivals and counting. Yeah, that's impressive. She worked as an assistant director also on the 2012 short films My Mother and Fragments, and also on the short action comedy Agent Steel. And she also worked on the feature drama Coyote from 2011. And last but not least, to my right is V.W. Scheich, who did the 2012 film Wallenda. He was the producer, writer, and director. VW has served in various roles such as production coordinator in major Hollywood feature films, including Charlie's Angels, Ghost Rider, Reign Over Me, Herbie Fully Loaded, Monster House, Spider-Man 3, Superbad, Step Brothers, and Pineapple Express. Short films that he has produced include 2008's Collector and 2006's Silent Film, which he also directed and edited. So if I can have a warm welcome for all 5 of our panelists. Very nice of them. Very nice of them to come here and give us their time today. So I'll start with some questions for you guys. The first one will be a very easy one. I'd like each of you to introduce yourselves, and with that, you can talk about your film and just talk about yourselves. So we'll start on the far end with Shawn.
My name is Shawn Christenson. I directed a film called Curfew, and it's about It's about a guy contemplating suicide, and in the middle of it, he gets a call from his estranged sister asking him if he can take care of his 9-year-old niece for the evening, who he's never met, and he decides to cancel his plans and go take care of this wonderful kid. So it starts out on a low note, but I think the film is it's mostly hopeful, and it's something that I felt like I wanted to do coming into last year, and so we filmed it, and we've had a lot of success with it.
Thank you. And Christina.
My name's Christina. We did the short film Dark Before Dawn. Co-producer Paul Scheich is in the audience. Hi, Paul. We did all the music for the film as well. And the film is about a guy that contemplates suicide. He's a failed writer, and he decides that his suicide letter will be his masterpiece. And in doing that, he's struggling with that letter, so he goes to a late-night diner where he saves someone's life, and in turn, it actually saves his own.
Okay. And Joseph Jurecki.
Well, my name is Joseph Jurecki. I am a co-writer, director, producer, and editor of Remarkable. I made it with Travis Pollard, who's sitting in the audience. Remarkable is just is a really fun little music video we made for a band that we're very close with called Attack Cat that's starting to get a little bit of attention, and they're a really fun little band. And the video itself is just a kind of fun exploration of two people kind of finding each other in a day's play. It's about this young couple who kind of basically are engaged in a large game of tag, and kind of them going through these sort of different levels of imagination, and it's fairly difficult to describe, but it's just a fun little piece that we're really, really proud of, and kind of made for a lot of reasons, and has really paid off for us. So it's been pretty cool.
Okay. And Regine.
Hi, I'm Regine Richards. I wrote and directed Some Things Are Worse Than Being Gay. And it's about a young woman who decides to come out to her parents. And they're very Jewish, so she's a little panicked about having to come out to them. And they take it really well until they learn that her girlfriend is not Jewish.
I love it. That's why you're in 25,000 festivals. That's awesome.
And then also to my right, VW.
Hi, I'm VW Scheich, and I wrote and directed and produced Wallenda, and I have all these posters, so I brought one with me. Actually, Win is a producer and co-writer. She's in the audience smiling at me, so that's my support. Wallenda is about Carl Wallenda of the Flying Wallendas, famous high-wire family. It's a period piece, takes place in 1920s Germany, and it's actually a piece of a proof of concept. It's a whole feature film. We just shot the first 20 minutes. That's what our savings could afford. And we did it all on green screen. Shot the whole thing on one location because we moved around locations a lot in the story, and we couldn't afford to move the company. And we did that with the help of a nonprofit company joined us, and we were able to use students from colleges, 7 different colleges in Los Angeles. 300 students volunteered. We had the largest VFX volunteer army in the world. Because everybody wants money. Normally you could just put a still image behind a green screen and make it happen, but unfortunately our camera moves, and when that does, all your parallax goes out of whack. So we had to actually model all the environments in CG and then render everything and do all the compositing and that kind of fun stuff. So it was really fun, easy, 2.5 years, no problem. Got it done. And we were lucky enough to make it to Cleveland and be here and part of the festival and all these other awesome films too. So, yeah.
Thank you. So from this point on, I'll ask questions, and whoever feels the urge to answer, go ahead. And just because one of you answers doesn't mean the rest of you can't chime in after that or during that. I'll let you guys fight it out. Other than the film festival circuit, short films can have some difficulty in terms of finding an audience. What other avenues do short films have in terms of getting out there before the people?
Well, first of all, there's the internet. I mean, it's sort of becoming the new standby, I guess. That's always I work in the commercial industry, so I'm kind of lucky enough that I've found a little niche in the world where I can kind of do my art in a way that is getting taken care of and doing socially. So it's not like a venue, but it's like for people who are looking to work to do this for a living and continue to make, tell stories and all of that. That's sort of an interesting avenue to pursue, especially if you don't mind having parameters on the kind of story you're telling, which I actually generally don't. I find it very helpful to focus my work. So it's that, I'd say, getting into commercial work. If you're interested in just doing the work and doing your best, that's an interesting avenue to take.
Yeah, distribution for short films is really difficult. I did Collector in 2005, and we got distribution for that. I think of them as like short film magazines. It's a collection of works. This one was based out of Canada that approached us. We got limited distribution through them. But I would say that if I were to do it again, I'd find a magazine or a company that distributes short collections in advance, see what kind of films they make, and then target that subject matter towards that particular magazine or that particular company so that you give them what they want and then build a relationship accordingly. But I'm sure you guys are being sought after by different companies now for distribution for your films, right? For the shorts.
I got distribution while being at a film festival. I was at Palm Springs. That was the first festival I was accepted in. And I got approached by IndieFlix, someone from IndieFlix. And that's how I got my distribution. But I wasn't really looking into that to begin with. I really just wanted to go into film festivals and get as much exposure as possible.
Can you just touch me right here? Just a little lot right there. Nice!
And I think another way, just to get exposure and get your work out there is also to partner with other filmmakers and do public screenings that you organize yourself. If there's any kind of special interest group that would be interested in it and hosting something like that, or summer outdoor screenings, or something at a library where everyone kind of collaborates, they get together, they do a program, and then you guys can talk afterwards, or something like that. We've done a lot of different things of that nature where we've partnered with a lot of people to get work out.
There's also a lot of film festivals that have short film markets or short film corners, which is where distributors from all around the world come in and they can look through a short film market of the films that were not selected for the film festival. So if 100 films, 90 films, 80 films are selected for the film festival, but another 2,000 were not selected, they'll go into this short film market. One of these festivals is Clermont-Ferrand in France. There's another one, CFC Worldwide Shorts, I think, has an extensive market, and it's a growing thing now, and people want content, and they want content not just for short film blocks or for short films just on the web. They want it for airplanes or for all kinds of different territories have different sort of ways of broadcasting internet that they are looking for. So I think short film distribution is really something that's really coming on strong nowadays, and I think it's important to know that there are many avenues that maybe you didn't even think about beyond just trying to get your friends to see it or a festival to see it, or even beyond even the internet. There are a lot of other avenues nowadays.
And that's good to hear.
Just want to add one more thing before, as my wife's an attorney, and if I didn't say this, I'd be in big trouble. Before you set out to make your film, I would definitely contact these distribution companies and ask them for a deliverables packet, and it'll go through all the list of all the things you need to have from A to Z, and make sure you get clearances and actors sign off and everything. Even us just sitting up here doing this, we had to sign a waiver. If you have a logo in your company, your song, whatever it is, it needs to be cleared, and you have to get all the rights to be able to distribute it in any kind of market. If you don't do that, like I did with my first film, you're done. Yeah. So it's important to make sure you get your clearances.
And just kind of go with him is also be creative. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is the whole industry is in this period of intense flux, and take advantage of that, because that's when you can do some really cool stuff, because there's a lot of different avenues opening up. I mean, there's just so many different things to do with the internet alone. Just get creative. Everything we understand about the way it has worked is starting to change, because there are people who are able to sort of mount these small productions and create content, really good, fun content, but at these smaller levels. So it's so malleable right now that you just want to keep your eyes open and just sort of grab at stuff. Just get creative, try and find cool places to show it. I mean, one of the things I know we've talked about is like, could you do a gallery showing, things like that. Like, how can you play with the form? So that would be my other piece of advice.
When setting out to make a film and you decide to make a short film, what advantages do you have when making a short film in terms of the story you can tell? What advantages are there versus, producing a feature film instead? What advantage do you have?
Well, the first advantage is that you don't have to be 90 minutes. A feature film, you have to have that, you have to be, well, whatever it is, maybe it's 80 minutes or less depending on the territory. But a short film can be 1 minute. A short film can be 10 minutes, it can be 20, there's a lot less rules with a short film, and there's also it's obviously a lot easier to shoot than a feature because you can use any medium, and you're not really constricted to, is it going to look good theatrically necessarily, especially if your intent is to go on to one of these internet websites like Funny or Die or something like that. I mean, if you're looking for those kinds of avenues, if you're looking for distribution, there's just a lot less rules, that's the nice thing about short filmmaking.
And kind of touching on what he said is like it's just significantly more manageable. I mean, the level of complexity it takes to make a film, it doesn't just kind of get bigger as it gets bigger. It's like every step you make, it gets multiplicatively bigger. I mean, it gets so huge because the amount of time that it takes to do virtually every part of the process just gets bigger and bigger as you add more stuff because you have more things to look at. I mean, I'm an editor by trade, and so it's like the more footage I get, the more stuff I have to go through. It takes more time, more things to evaluate. Like, do I want to use this? Do I not want to use this? So it's like when it gets bigger, it's like when you look at what it really actually takes to make a feature, because I know a lot of people who've attempted it and stuff like that. It's a huge, huge, huge amount of work that, if you don't have the resources to do, is just, it's sort of like becomes a pipe dream. And so like working at the short level, you can hone your craft. I mean, that's actually the thing I like about it, is it's a place you can hone your craft that won't bankrupt you. If you know how to do it right, you can play and you understand all the different elements of business and what everything takes. You can craft things that are very small that you can go really deep with, as opposed to trying to do larger things that you don't have the resources to do. You can make a something nice, tight, and that hones your skills.
Anyone else?
They're so positive.
Yeah.
Well, it's so hard to make a good short film. These people did it so well. It's amazing. I think that if you were to get together the funding for a short film done in any kind of quality like they did, or to do a feature on a similar low budget, $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, and kind of have that machine put together to put together a crew that's going to work 15 days, 10 days, what have you. Once the system's put together, I think that the effort and the heartache you put into it is going to be similar. I mean, if you can pull this off the way they did, I think that that's much to their credit that it's saying, oh, it's not easy. It's a lot of hard work. Either way, I think that it would be difficult to do either one for sure. Not easy. So, I don't know, but I think you guys said it's better, so I'm going to be quiet.
But there's a lot of spending that went on for my film, as well. So believe me, I agree with you there. It's just that. But I made that choice, and you guys made that. They made that choice as well. Sometimes with short filmmaking, you can just take an idea, and you don't have to put in the money that we did on it. You can take it a really long distance. I actually haven't figured that out yet. I'm always putting in money for the production or the cinematography aspect of it, and really concentrating on that. And that can be costly if you really concentrate on the aesthetic like that. But some people do some things that are incredible with just an idea and just a little DV camera and just two of their friends, and suddenly it's an amazing 7 or 8 minute short film. And I haven't been able to do that.
Those people.
I hate those people too. I haven't been able to do that yet, but I've seen some of them, and that's kind of what makes an incredible medium.
Yeah, my friend was Spielberg's personal chef, and he asked him for advice one day, and he's like, never use your own money to make a movie. So we broke that rule.
And we both,
Yeah, right away. That theory essentially goes, if you have a project that's worth making, someone else will pay for it. I don't know if that's true. It may have worked for him. He also broke the rule, my friend. He went and spent his own money. So, but that's words from people who can without, so to speak. So, I don't know.
But then with shorts, I really feel like it's tough to get money for shorts. You may get money for features, but for shorts, I mean, for the most part, all the filmmakers I've met, they've used their own pockets and
yeah. So features are easier
friends.
to make in that sense, for sure.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah, because you have to go for the funding with the feature. Like you can pull off a short film with just kind of spit and polish, whereas a feature needs that funding.
Still an Escalade, sell it, make it.
A feature is looked as a sellable entity, and a short film is not before you shoot it. Maybe after you shoot it, it can be looked at as a sellable entity, but before you shoot it, it's never looked at that way. But a feature, before you shoot it, it can be looked at as a sellable entity, and therefore you can find financiers for it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, any project you're doing is going to be a learning experience, and no matter how much you plan in advance and everything you have like done, there's always going to be something that comes up, and you learn from that, hopefully. And every time you do a project, you learn something new, and you think, okay, well, going into the next one, you know, never in a million years did I think like this would happen, so I'll prepare for this next time, and then have that flexibility of knowing that something can go wrong and just be prepared for it. And you know, the best thing to do is just kind of tackle it head on, say, okay, it doesn't matter like who's at fault, who did it, like, you know, it's just, here's the issue, how do we move forward, let's make it happen. And I think when you're getting into this, a short is a good way to do it, because it's a good way to learn that process and learn, you know, how to dot the I's and cross the T's and how to get the location agreements and, you know, how to do a casting session and things like that. So, you know, in my experience, I think, you know, when people are getting started, a short's really good for that. It's a good way to kind of tackle a project and see it from beginning to end, because it's always really exciting and appealing, and, you know, you get this buzz going and people are coming to your casting call and you're talking to locations and you're getting permits and things like that. And then you shoot it, and then you start editing, and you're like, oh, this is such a process, you know? And it's like, it can kind of wear you out. And I've seen a lot of really enthusiastic people that hit that point that are like, oh, this is just, you know, yeah, we'll finish it next year, you know? So do something that's manageable for the first time, just so you can learn the process, so you don't get burned out, you know, on maybe a feature.
And I think you guys are moving into one of the other questions I had here. What advice do you have for anyone out here who is an aspiring filmmaker? What pitfalls or what problems have you run into that you never anticipated you would run into? And I know some of you have already talked about it, like...
Don't do green screen.
So, any other
well, to
things?
go off of her earlier statement and go into yours, not to be the segue guy, but which are cool if you have a red helmet. I think that pre-planning is so important, right? Like she said, and everything goes awry. So we storyboarded it traditionally, then we used FrameForge and boarded everything that way. Then I actually used Maya and prevised everything. So I haven't even shot yet, and I've already made my film 3 times over, right? With audio and dialogue and the whole thing, edited together. Everything was locked, that it was locked, no problem. Shot in 5 days. Oh, great. Edited together. Now we have a cut. It's all green. We're gonna start sending out shots to students. So it just blew past about a month and a half of work. And now we go to some student's house who was making all the models and stuff, and I have a hard drive, and I backed it up because I did the right thing, and I prepared, and I'm all planned, and I plugged the hard drive into the computer, and a blue flame, I'm not kidding, shoots out of the back of my hard drive. And I pull it out, and it's just smoke coming up, and I'm just like, oh my God, what? And he's like, oh, did you plug in the FireWire port, man? I'm like, yeah, I did, man. And he's like, whoa, that's a bad port. Don't plug it into that port. Would have been great to have known. So I took it back to my office, and it turns out that the backup didn't really back up. It did an image of it, and the image failed. So I was like, what am I going to do? My whole film, all my red footage is on here in addition to the one environment I needed, and now I'm totally effed. So what I did was I cracked the case of the hard drive, put it onto a tripod, I stuck it next to the window where the exterior AC unit was on, and I blew air through the two 1 terabyte drives, and actually crystals and ice formed all around the drive throughout the whole day. I'm in the office working, right? I have a day job, and I'm freezing because I'm watching this hard drive freeze like this, and it's getting so cold, and I'm like, okay, that looks good, and I plug the computer into my little Mac lap, and it actually mounts, which it wasn't doing for the longest time. And so I'm like, oh, I'm out. And I copy. And it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter harder, water's dripping off the drive, and this can't be good. And then the whole thing just crashes and dies. I'm like, oh God, but I got at least like 36 megabytes off of 2 terabytes, so that's a good start, right? So then I do the whole process again. So after the next 7 weeks pass, I actually got all the data off, because if you're looking at data recovery, it's about $8,000 per drive. If they recover something, if they don't, we try our best kind of thing. So yes, you have to practice and prepare as much as possible. Everything will go wrong, and hopefully you have a nice exterior AC unit to save the day. Man, what a nightmare! And I didn't even start post yet, right? We didn't even start visual effects. How was your day, honey? Oh, I'm coming home now. The AC is on at work. I'll be back in the morning to see if I can get the rest of the stuff. Yeah, she's laughing because she knows it's true. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah. Any other advice?
I would say, like, just kind of going back to one of the things she said is, like, just practice, you know, is like take that time to like make things that are really small. I mean, stuff that no one's ever gonna see, that you just like admit that's like, I'm never showing this to anybody other than a couple of my buddies. But just like practice, do it over again, you know, try and up the level of complexity so when you try and go for the big one, you know what you're doing. I would say, I mean, that's just been kind of one of the things that I've noticed is like, you get, you know, you learn all the tools in film school and you get real excited because it's like, oh, I know how a medium shot works, and you know, and you figure out all the little pieces and you get so excited that you just sort of run into stuff, and it's like, it's important to take that time. I mean, it's like one of the reasons I'm still in school, just because I've just been doing it, you know, and you just do it over and over and over again, and I've done tons of stuff no one's ever seen and will never see, and I would say just that process of rehearsal and practice and like really understanding like how film operates as a language, you know, and how to communicate what you're trying to say. And it's, I would say that would be my biggest thing. And I would say one of the biggest pitfalls that I've seen is people trying to just jump. And there's a merit to jumping off a cliff, if only to be like, don't jump off that cliff again like that. And that's been sort of one of those things where it's like, it's good to reach beyond your grasp, because then you know what that reach is, but it's also good to like take it back, start from scratch, do tiny things, and just understand the logistics of everything possible, you know? It's like hard drive problems, that's huge. That's so huge. It's like, it'll kill you every time. I mean, if you don't have the right ports, if everything isn't backed up properly.
And once you back it up, it never crashes. It's like that. I don't understand. What is that all about?
That's true.
No, it's
absolutely true.
Can you back it up?
I have my film backed up
No
on
problem.
20 drives.
Yeah.
Not one of them has had a problem.
No, yeah. If you had one drive, that'd be done.
One drive.
You'd be in the audience and be like, I hate this movie.
I think it's like the film god saying like, good job, there you go.
Do your homework and you pass the test. But all war stories aside, I think you should do your film in constant polish and tandem. In other words, put your assembly together, whether it be storyboards, thumbnails, images you stuff from the internet, and have a cut of your film, and then shoot whatever you need to shoot, and put those shots in place of that, and then do it again and again, and keep constantly polishing. Well, in VFX, they call it the turd. You keep polishing the turd until you get to a place where you're out of time and you're out of money. And when that happens, your film is finished. But that's true. I mean, the people who worked on my film worked on Avatar, Alice in Wonderland, Real Steel, Harry Potter, and that's all what they do. They have these big, gorgeous matte paintings, and they're like, oh, I worked on this shot for 6 days, and the guy in Green Lantern I worked on it for 14 weeks. But it's the same amount of time, and they just had more money. And then once it runs out of those two things, the key factors, and when your deadline for Sundance or whatever it is that you're trying to hit comes, that DVD is burned, and that's in the mail. You made your deadline. Could it be better? Everything could be better, right, guys? We all can find a shot or a pixel we'd like to change. And we just ran out of time and money because the deadline of the festival, whatever we wanted to make, came about, so then we stopped. But if you could have a finished film, I mean, on bigger features, I have a video sys operator who's sitting there shooting everything playing back for you. I did that job on a couple features, and we're just cutting it together as we go and making a rough assembly. So when they get into editorial, they already have a cut to show the director. They already have a pass at it. Yeah, they may switch a take here and there, but ultimately, the film's been assembled. It takes a week and a half off, and then comes back to editorial after they're wrapped, principal photography. But then it's just a matter of keep polishing and polishing and polishing. You're doing revisions. And you don't take the hardest thing and do it first, right? You do all the shots at the same time in tandem. You keep bringing that quality level up and up and up until you reach a place where you can't just do it anymore because life happens and whatever. But yeah, that's exactly right. I totally agree.
But I mean, going back to sorry.
No. Go.
Going back to the fact that things will always arise, they will. I think that most of your work is in the end done in pre-production. That prepares you the most once you get on set, and things will always happen. But at least if you've done a lot of your work in pre-production, you're more prepared than if you get on set and you're like, okay, so where do we put the camera? And that's a problem. And I've been on sets like that. Believe me, they exist. But yeah, it's definitely a process, and it's fun, and you learn a lot from it. And if I have one advice is to get on set as much as possible, and not even as a writer director, but if you can work on crew, it's an awesome experience. It's a learning experience. I freelance as a first AD, and I've learned so much from just doing that. So when I'm on my own set, it's different. So that would be my advice: work on crew, even for free. It's okay.
Yeah, volunteer.
At least at the beginning.
You have to do it for free. There's that's the way it is.
Yeah.
No one starts as the director.
No.
So, and I think, like, to add on to another thing, I do a lot of locations. I find locations for production companies, and a lot of times I negotiate those contracts. So, I think, especially when you're making independent films, it's so important to build good relationships with your local vendors, your local locations, things like that. And, I'm a big fan of it being a team effort. When we make a project, every person that comes to the table is part of that team. It's not my film, it's not Paul's film, it's not Louise's film, it's our film. We're all in it together. I do my diligence after the fact to keep them in the loop where we are with stages, when we have screenings, things of that nature. So it's really important to keep those location folks happy, because the next time you go to film, or someone else in your community wants to shoot there, you want to make sure they have a really good experience. And I think in order to do that, setting the terms up front of, hey, this is what to expect. I'm not going to lie to you. We are probably going to shoot for 8 hours. It could go to 12 or 15, I'm not going to lie. We're going to have people, we're going to say, hey, this is the room that, we're going to hold people. Will they kind of filter out into other areas? We're going to try to make sure that doesn't happen. It could, but we're going to try to wrangle it. But what I need you to do is, if you feel that there are any problems or anything comes to your attention that's not making you feel comfortable about this situation, this is the person. If I'm directing that project, then I'm going to designate a person to handle that. And, I'm going to make sure that they have a good relationship too. So, I think building those relationships, because you never know where it's going to go in the future either. And you want to make a really good, solid foundation for a film community to thrive in your area.
And if you can get the person to work in your film who's on the location, like the person who owns the house, cast them in your movie, cast their kids, whatever. I mean, I've had to repave people's driveways after the fact to make it nicer for them. We put in wooden decks behind their house, retile their kitchen floors, whatever it takes, right, to get the shot. We just needed that house so badly. Mm-hmm. But I think you worked on Spider-Man 3, right?
I did.
Yeah, so I think I know you. I think I worked with you on that.
Yeah.
Your voice sounds so familiar on the phone. I'm like, I think I know Christina. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
If you're looking for any houses in the Cleveland area, I need a pool.
Nice. I once arranged for a pool to be dug. The art department came, brought a swing gang in. We did the whole plaster inside, the mosaic tiles all the way around. He wanted terracotta Spanish tiles on the outside. So we had the art department make a faux mold of it, and we cast it in cement, and we just had them painted and stained. We gave me a full Spanish pool with a waterfall off to the jacuzzi. Not kidding.
Wow.
But that's Hollywood, right? Good times. I'm like, how much was this movie? But God, it was a $180 million movie, so it's like, that was only $60,000, and we got the house for 6 days, and the perks and whatever, and the insurance was really helpful. But yeah, good times. It's unions,
Any other advice?
I would say going on to keep your relationships intact. It's a very, very important thing. In our studio, my boss Travis, great guy, one of the things he said, and this has been like a point of admiration for me for a very long time with him, is that he said at some point I had to decide, am I going to invest in equipment or am I going to invest in people? And I really genuinely think that the investing in people is always the better investment in a general sense, even if it's not that like I'm going to pay you. It's just like you keep those relationships in contact. I mean, I get to work with like 2 of my best friends and all of that because we've grown together, and you just keep, I heard Harold Ramis, who's a director and comedian, said it's like you find the most talented people around and then you grab on for dear life and never let go. And that's my philosophy. Like I just try and keep, you keep good people around and you treat those people well and with respect and kind of going what you say, like honesty. Like when you're going to those situations and you're taking over someone's house, just be honest with them.
That it's going to be awful. It's going to be awful.
You have to, because then they're just going to get mad at you and not when you come back. I mean, I guess if you're at that film at all costs kind of level, that's
get them a
okay.
hotel somewhere else.
But really, and just keep that honesty with the people you're working with, and just treat them with respect. That's a real important.
I actually have a question.
Yeah,
I'm just curious, what do you guys stand as far as like buying equipment, which is what you said, versus renting equipment? Because you had mentioned it. I thought it's an interesting debate amongst filmmakers, especially low budget people. Do we go out and buy the latest red, whatever, Scarlett Johansson camera, or do we get the guy who's a DP who has 3 red ones, but they're kind of sort of working sometimes, but he'll swap it out? Like, what do you guys stand preferably in your next project? Are you going to rent? Are you going to buy your own, or what do you think?
Oh man, that's tough.
Okay, we'll skip you. Fine.
I own a red, but I didn't use it for this latest.
Right? And how mad are you?
I'm not. I mean, the reason I didn't use it is because we wanted to use Panavision lenses, and I don't have a Panavized red, so I had to rent anyway. I used the red for the film from last year. I don't know. I guess. It's a tough question. I think renting is probably, if you're doing a short film, I think renting. If you're doing a feature...
If you're doing a feature and it breaks down, gets sand in it, if something happens, you just call the shop and they're like, oh, okay, and they switch one out for you. But if it's your personal red, you can't call any shops. I want to rent too, or I want to buy also, but then I sold a lot of my gear because I was kind of like, but then I have friends who are like, no, I got to buy my cameras.
I bought because I thought I was going to rent it out, and really it just kind of
everyone did,
yeah.
Now they're laying in the streets, right? There's red everywhere. It's terrible.
I mean, I would say it all boils down to economics. I mean, I think it's like if you have a reason to develop. I mean, it's like we buy equipment. One of the things we do at our studio, which is our primary source of money, is editing. So we have editing equipment because we need editing equipment. You can't just. That's not one of those things where like, can I borrow your computer?
Sure.
And it's like Eric Leiser, who was our photographer on Remarkable. It's like he's been building a really nice camera package on his own because that makes sense for him. He's a photographer. But
then I would hire him and get a deal on his rate because I'm shooting in Cleveland and I know that I can get 35% if I can buy resident, and I'll just hire him, cut his deal in half, and then work it that way, right?
Exactly. So he's got a reason to buy the equipment because it's an integral part of everything he does, and it makes him as a photographer more valuable. Where it's like we don't have that need. I can hire him. We've got and Mike Jones and several other photographers that we work at because they've got their equipment. They made that investment. So I think it's all dependent on what you need. If you don't need it, don't do it. You'll save more money just paying some guy, and then you're putting money into the pocket of the people you want to work with, and hopefully in this situation, someone that you love, and that it's like, here, go, we're going to make something great, and I'm giving you the money, and you're able to sustain your life and continue to do this, and the community builds around it.
Insurance guys, everyone got insurance on their films, all their equipment and everything? You had to? No insurance? Yeah. Okay, I was just checking. Some people are like, insurance.
Insurance is good.
After that, I just did on a flat.
When you buy a camera package, but you're not buying the lights, or you have to go buy the light. Sometimes you buy a camera package, but you don't have the lenses that you want. You have to rent it becomes a thing where you have to rent anyway. Sometimes
just hire Eric.
You
guys are watching this. He's right there.
That's the answer to the question. Really.
And my final question then is, in producing a short film, now you've got a short film that you're really proud of. Is it something you can use as a stepping stone? If you have aspirations to make a feature film down the road, is it something you can show people to hopefully say, this is what I can do? Can it be a stepping stone or a calling card film to show people this is what I can do when raising money or when just trying to land a deal with somebody?
I think it absolutely is. I think, it's like a photographer with a portfolio. It's building a portfolio. Or, if you have a feature in mind, you're going to go to your business meetings with your investors, you're going to try to pitch them, you're going to want a business plan, a really glossy business plan, and they're going to say, well, what else have you done? Who's attached? What else have you done? And you're going to want to have something to show them, I think. So if you have something, I think that's a huge bonus. If you shoot like a trailer for it even, I think that's always beneficial to have something that you're proud of to display, that you can show, because it's showing that you can take a project from A to B and you're completing it. And that if you have that in your history, because especially if you're shooting a feature, they're so hard to complete because it's such a process, So if you're showing that, hey, I'm a doer, I go out, I get it done, I will take it from like concept to screen, then I think that would be advantageous to you.
For our work, having something like Remarkable, in our palette, it gives you, a different kind of credibility when you've got these things out there and they're playing in festivals, and it just gives you that like, hey, people are watching this. I mean, it's one of those industry ways of understanding that it's like, oh, you're creating content that people are watching and people, are liking, hopefully. But yeah, it's a great venue, particularly with that idea of like kind of cutting your teeth and getting better at it, and then just sort of showing people what you got, because you can do it.
My film is just that. It's a calling card for the feature that I'm using to promote the feature and hopefully get funding, distribution, all that kind of fun stuff to put together. I worked for Angela Robinson, who directed Herbie Fully Loaded, and before that she directed a feature called Debs. And the reason why she got that was because she did the short film in NYU, and she'd been volunteering at Sundance for about 4 or 5 years, really making personal connections, so she had an avenue to show it. And at Sundance, Clint Culpepper, head of Screen Gems, saw it, and he was like, this film is like Charlie's Angels with lesbians. I love this. So they, of course, took it. It really is a great film. They took it and made the feature, and then that got her a chance to make this, Disney film, which was about $64 million. So that was a big chance for her to kind of go, and now she's doing television or whatever. But yeah, to make short films first and then promote yourself is really the way to go. I don't know anybody who's been like, I like you. I'll have you make the next feature in my studio. Even this guy's name is, I don't remember his last name. His first name is Nimrod, which is kind of fun. But he directed Vacancy, and he did a horror film, short film first, and then Columbia saw it, and they brought him in for an interview, and he was just dynamic and scary at the same time. So he made this really dynamic, scary Vacancy movie. But yeah, that's definitely, you're absolutely right. I totally agree. For what it's worth.
I think it can also be like, to add on to it, I know we're on a short film panel, but I think it can also be like if you do music videos or something, that's something that I think you can include too, because it's part of that creative process. And I did, I'm about to say a very bad word, so please, if you have anything in your hand, don't throw it on the stage. Okay, because I'll just say it once. I did a video that I produced a couple years ago. It was meant to be cheesy. It was meant to be kind of fun. It was a spoof. It was a LeBron James video to get him to stay. And it was called We Are LeBron. And, it started off, I think I partnered with someone else, and they said, well, we'll just have like 8 people. I said, if we're going to do this, let's do this. Let's get the governor, let's get the local news, celebrity folks, let's get firemen and teachers and stuff like that. And I'll tell you what, here's this little video that we're like, okay, well, this will be funny, and we're doing this just because we're having fun, right? And it got over 1 million hits, and it made national news. And that's something that I can take and show people that, hey, look, we were able to produce this video. We got the governor involved and all these other people singing this crazy song, and it really was something that we can show. And you tell them that it's funny, but it did the job. That's the job. The job was to get exposure for it and get it out there.
Yeah, it shows you can do it. It's really great.
Yeah.
So director of Terminator 3 and We Are Marshall and Charlie's Angels 1 and 2. He started with directing music videos, which happened to be his friends, and his friends happened to be Sugar Ray and the guys from Smash Mouth, but still, they were buddies of his that weren't anybody at the time, but then he made these music videos and got picked up, and then Drew Barrymore's like, these videos are awesome, who did these? And Joseph McGinty is cooler now because he's called by McGee, but so McGee did them, okay, great. And they brought him in, and he was just as lost as anybody on his first film, but he got through it, and it worked out for him. But yeah, music videos, for sure.
Well, really, anything you can do. Just do whatever you can.
We should all make short films that tie into each other and we'll have a feature. But that was already done now.
Several times. Yeah, just do whatever you can. I mean, really, if you get an opportunity to do a 5-minute documentary, do it. If it's a way, because as far as I'm concerned, music video, documentary, narrative film, commercial, it's all using the same language. Whatever you're doing, you're still making, essentially communicating using film. So anything you can do to get out there and shoot and cut and figure out how to put a story together is great, because then as you build that process, then you got stuff that says, look what I know how to do. And it's great.
Well, and also I think that as filmmakers, your self-confidence is very different once you've done something. I mean, it's really tough to go into a room and say, hey, I really want to do a feature. Do you think you want to take me on? As opposed to having something to show where you know, okay, I know my stuff now. Or at least I feel like I'm in a better place to prove that I can do even better. So yeah, definitely work.
Okay. At this time, we will open it up to the audience. So any questions that you have for our panelists, feel free to raise your hand.
Yeah, my question is, you did a lot of talking about cameras and like red, of course, very expensive. What do you think about what type of cameras to use? Does it matter what type of camera you use as long as you shoot a good feature and you can work with it, or do you have to use like a high-level camera and rate it out? What's the best advice on that?
So the question is, put microphones. The question is, what advice do you have in terms of cameras, high end versus low end, depending on the feature, I believe.
Yes.
What would you recommend?
I mean, Rodriguez shot his feature on next to nothing for $7 grand and got it to Sony and Bob's your uncle kind of thing.
I think if the story's good enough and you've got an image quality, I mean, I call it the threshold. There's sort of a threshold where if you can get the image to be like good enough that people aren't gonna like notice. Like we do a lot of 5D shooting just because it's something where you get a really nice quality image, you put really good lenses on those cameras, get a really nice quality image. It's kind of you don't have as much work in the color space, but if you know how to use all that, you can do really good stuff with it. I think, as I kind of saying before, it's all about economy. It's like what do you have access to? How much money do you have to make your short? If you've got $200 to make short, don't use a red because you probably can't afford it.
Use your iPhone. HDs.
No, you can do amazing
HD
stuff.
baby on your iPhone. I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah, and I'll take the other side of that because I'm sure these guys are probably much more technical than I am, and I'll be the first to admit, when I'm looking at doing a project, in terms of different cameras and lenses and stuff, that's not my area of expertise. But what I do is I get really good people that know that stuff. And I pick out movie clips of different movies that have the feel, the atmosphere, the tone. I go through magazines, I tear out pages, and I say, these are the color schemes I'm looking at. This is the look, the feel, this is the grain, this is the texture. What do we need to do to make this happen for this project? And they say, oh, you know what, it's this camera, if we don't have access to that, then we pick a camera there's access to, and they know the settings that we can play with and the lenses to make that happen.
I've never worked on a film that we didn't shoot a film test first. So go to the camera house, go to Eric, whatever, borrow his camera, say I want to shoot 10 minutes, and then you can play with different film grains. You can go into post, you can After Effects, Nuke, whatever it is, you can put a film grain on there, 52C, whatever it is, and you can get that look in advance. I mean, you chose Panavision lenses, but there's tons of lenses out there. So maybe you tested it first and goes, oh, if I shoot with red with these lenses, it gives me this look, or vice versa. But I would definitely test everything beforehand and push it all the way through to final, that one 6-framed little clip all the way through to the very end and say, that's what my movie's gonna look like. And you're like, I like that. And you go back, do it again and again. And once you lock all that down, then it gives you the thumbs up, then you're good to go.
Yeah, I think
10% Eric.
I think the relationship and marriage between the cinematographer and the director are really important. You know pretty early in the process if it's a good relationship you're going to have, or if you're not really on the same wavelength. I happen to have an awesome DP, and I absolutely adore him, and I would work with him in a heartbeat again. We had the exact almost same references, and he just knew the story, and it matched almost to a T. I was shocked. So I knew he was the right person to work with. And it's a job interview. I mean, when you hire a DP, you have to look at him as someone potentially that could work or not. And he will help you get to, the final image that you want. He will help create that, and that's very important.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question about legal. I know that it probably changes with different things, but are there just some basic things you should know or always have going in on the legal side?
Releases would be the #1 thing.
And is that for just I mean, for media release, is there any other sort of?
Well, releases for anyone in your background or anyone in your film in general, just to make sure you have you're covered on that. That would be the number one thing, I guess, during production. And then, you know, we were talking about also just making sure you're insured, which is a big thing, because if you have 10, 12, however many people around, that, you know, and something happens to one of them, that could be, you could be in a lot of trouble with that if you're not insured for not just the camera package, but, you know, look into the, you know, some way of ensuring the production as a whole. You know, it doesn't really. There are ways to have it so it doesn't cost you very much money, but it's just something to be wary of. And then in post, then there's a whole array of things like music licensing and things like that. You know.
Yeah, I would definitely spend the time and consult an attorney for sure. I mean, if you're going to use friends and family money to put together a budget for your film, whether it be short or feature, and you get to the end of the line, you have this project and you can't do anything with it, that's a tragedy, right? No one can see it and you can't license it because the person who did whatever is all gone. Well, my wife, who's an attorney, is going to stand up and correct me now. Go ahead.
You did great. I know I'm not on the panel, but it's okay if I chime in on this. I'm a corporate and entertainment transactional attorney. I practice in Los Angeles. And I would think, first, when you complete your script, I'm assuming you're the writer, register with the Copyright Office. It costs $35. You can go online to their website, and that ensures that your rights and the intellectual property of your script are maintained. And then when you actually complete your film, your project, your video, whatever, also go online and register it again with the Copyright Office so that you do maintain your legal rights to your property. I think also in our short film, Wallenda, we had a lot of old photographs, a lot of footage. For example, in the beginning, we had footage of Carl Wallenda falling from the high wire. It was owned by the local news station in Puerto Rico. We wanted to include it in our short film, but of course we had to clear it. So before, honestly, it was probably like 3 weeks before we finished post-production on our project, I asked my husband, how badly do you want this in there? He said, I really want it in there. I said, it's done. So of course we had to find out who owned the footage, and then we were able to, and this is along with music licenses, you want to find a way, like for example, we got a lesser license fee because we were not going to distribute it. We weren't going to sell our project. We were going to just keep our distribution limited to festivals. So we didn't have to pay as much as we would have if we had decided to sell it and post it on YouTube, for example. So definitely, yeah, make sure you get your legal clearances. Any photographs that you might use, if you think they're in the public domain, but you're not quite sure they are, I would definitely check to see who owns those rights, because if they find out that you've used their photographs or their property in your video. My husband likes to say it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, but I go the other way. I say ask.
I never said that. I didn't say it's better, I said easier.
It's not, yeah.
It is easier. I'm so sorry, Your Honor. I had no idea the lady was in front of the bus.
It's a good rule of thumb to presume that you could be sued for anything. I mean, really, that's paranoid, but you know, because if you piss off an actor that you don't have a release for, or that you forgot to get a release for, and they for some reason turned against you and don't want their image in the film, you just lost your film. You know, so you just want to look it up. I mean, there's stuff online where you can find the stuff you need pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. But even the logos on a T-shirt, I mean, if Nike swoosh.
Logos, music, imagery of virtually any kind. I mean, it's just like, if you don't own it, you could probably be sued for it.
If filmmakers got the clearances to all the logos that were later Greeked out in post, you would put most of the small VFX houses in LA out of business. Just saying. So don't do that.
I actually have a crew-based question. I'm actually in the process of working to become a stills photographer. Eric, can you come, please? Yay, thank you. My shameless plug right there. Okay. I was wondering what the dynamic is on a short film for the crew. I read when he was doing your introductions that a lot of you wore multiple hats on your film, everything from directing to producing to acting in it. So, do you feel like you like having that control? Do you feel like it's hard wearing multiple hats? Do you usually work with skeleton crews? You know, because with a feature, obviously, you can have hundreds of crews. But with a short, you're going to have, I'm assuming, a more intimate group. So how does that dynamic work?
Well, first of all, when you're doing a short film, if you want to direct a short film, you should have someone else, even if it's a friend, a best friend, someone be the producer of that film. Because that'll help you immensely. That'll help you think more about the creative side of things and let them handle, you know, the releases and the, you know, the licensing of the music, and at least let them learn and handle that. I would say to do the producing and the directing, which a lot of people do, but for me, that's the thing that really makes life harder if you're doing that, because then, you know, hiring the crew and making sure and getting them fed every day and all the things, all these millions of things you don't think about in production. It's nice to have your best friend who you feel is also has a lot to, you have a lot in common with filmmaking wise, or someone who's in your local community who's produced a couple other things that knows their way around a little bit. That would be the number one thing if you're planning on directing and being a filmmaker, is to have a right-hand person who's right there with you and you see eye to eye with each other, and they can kind of handle some of these things while you're trying to figure out the casting or whatever that is, you know. That would be the number one thing. My first film, the film that was in Tribeca last year, Brink, I was the cinematographer and the director, and I handled a lot of other things too, but I still had a producer who was helping me with a lot of the other things, and that helped me concentrate on the job at hand.
Yeah, I think it's really important for the creative process. I was not that smart. I did pretty much everything from producing to casting to craft services to production manager to producer, director and writer. And by the time, I mean, an hour before I was ready to shoot my first scene, I was at Ralph's shopping for food. And I got to set and I'm shaking because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so not ready. And I was just exhausted, and I will never do it again, ever. I will hire enough people so that I can focus on what I'm doing, because it's too much. Even for a short, I mean, I was only shooting for 2 days. I only had 5 people on crew and 7 actors, but it was a small space, and it just got, I was dead. I was pretty dead.
I think a lot of it again goes back to what can you afford to do, and like what's your budget, what's your resources, what are people willing to do, because it's like even if you get your friends to work for free, they're still paying out essentially. It's like, you know, when you get your friends to do stuff, they're still using their resource, and they're, you know, because working on a set, that's all emotion. Even if you're great, it's just emotion and everybody's angry and or whatever, you know, or having a great time, but there's still a lot of emotion, and so it's taxing. You got to feed them. I mean, so it's like, what do you have the resources to do? Remarkable. That was like beyond strategic in terms of it. It was like, we got $500. We want to get this thing done in a month. You know, what can we do? And so it's like, you know, Travis and I, in our commercial work, developed a model that allowed us to move really light, really quickly. And so the two of us co-produced, co-directed it, and then we got Eric and another guy, Mark Valley, to help shoot it. And it was like, so 2 of us, 2 camera people, 2 actors, and everything was designed to be that. You know, we didn't go there and then try and, you know, okay, now we're gonna have a horse because we don't have a horse. You know, you do what, you know, if you design it to be tiny, and you know what you're doing, and you have people who you trust. I mean, it's like, it couldn't have worked any other way than me and Travis, because we just developed a relationship where it was like, I don't need to talk to him about stuff. We just do stuff. And that's really important. So it's like, but if you've got the money, I mean, the less you can do on set, the better. The more you can focus on one thing, the better. But if you don't have the money to do that, make it small and make it doable.
Yeah,
Is it good as a crew person? Like I said, I'm in the process of trying to be a stills photographer, but obviously I still need set experience, so I'm also trying to be like a set PA. So if you put out a call for a crew and you get a response, are you looking for somebody that can do one thing? Are you looking for somebody that can do 5 things? Are you looking for somebody that, like, I have experience lighting photography-wise, so like I know how to light, so I might be able to light film-wise, you know. What do you look for when you're hiring a crew, I guess? Or is it all friends?
I think, in my opinion, I think it depends on the project,
Yeah.
to be honest.
It depends on the budget, and it
Yeah.
depends, you know, if your budget's low, you want them to do about 75 things.
And one of the ways in the past that like we've worked it, and I couldn't agree with you more, that it would be in an ideal world, you wear one hat, like during the actual production process. But, you know, I know like, you know, we really take pride that we pay everyone, okay? So, I mean, they're not winning the mega millions, but we try to pay something, right? And one of the ways we're able to do that is, you know, like I'll produce and direct, but I produce in advance. So it's like, you know, I negotiate, I know like where the strengths are. So I'm like, okay, I can negotiate all the locations and do the location scouting. We can do the casting in advance. So I try to do a lot of that stuff in advance. And then we'll bring those people on maybe like 2 or 3 days before we actually shoot. And I catch them up to speed. It's heavy duty, like long 10-hour days. Get them caught up to speed. I give them all the documentations. We have meetings with all the people that they're going to need to know. And then at that point, I step out, they take over, and when we go to set, that is my job to direct. And then I know I've got really good people on those tasks. So.
Yeah, I only paid who I had to. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't choke.
I know.
Don't choke. I was thumbs up thing to choke.
Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, I was going to say, I only paid who I had to. We had a crew of 80 people for 5 days, and just feeding them alone was a major thing. We were shooting 2 cameras and 2 full camera crews. What I did was I tapped into old crews that I worked with before on bigger films, and so I essentially got key people from all major feature films to work on all those positions, and then I got an associate producer from a local college to crew up all the other minor roles. So yes, I'm not paying you, but you're now working with the DP who shot, you know, Jaws in 3D or what have you, and they're like, oh my gosh, really? And then he's like, oh, I could take the kids fishing for the day. That's fun for him, you know. And that's the way he looks at it, because I mean, at this point they're kind of like, isn't that cute that he got the slate upside down again, or like, oh no, you know, like turn it around, honey, there you go, because it's really kind of like that. So it's fun to have all those positions filled, but if they're not kind of quality things, I'm a big believer in the jack of all trade saying, and that definitely is a thing. But by the time you get to the last day, everyone's great, right? It's all polished, and it's just the first 3 days that are difficult to work with. But yeah, we had all the positions filled, and I think we paid people we had to pay. There's certain people that you can't not pay, like grip and electric. You know, if you were actually on a stage manager is going to have a fee there. Certain things like that, fire marshals who are going to have effects or whatever. You can't not, unless your uncle's a fire marshal, in which case, can I have his number? You know, I don't, that's one of those things. But my opinion, my suggestion to you would be to go through and look at other films that shot here recently, whether it be shorts, indies, or features, and find crew lists and call them. Be like, are you at home today? What are you doing? Want to work on a cool project? I'm really pretty with long hair. I used to have hair before I made film now. and make that work, you know. It used to be.
Cut it off if it's not selling.
You can actually sell your hair to make your movie, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Untapped revenue streams. Always good.
Eric's got it all going on.
I'm good. We're doing good. I'm happy. This is never.
But I mean, on the other hand, I think, I mean, for me, I will look through Craigslist and Mandy and whatever other lists are out there. And frankly, I've had stuff that happens, such as I would have someone who would want to come in as a PA, but then once I would meet with them, well, they know a lot about cameras and, you know, that particular camera I'm working with, and I'll say, well, we need a second AC, are you? And I will bump them into second AC if they feel comfortable doing that, and it's happened. So just because you come in as a PA doesn't mean you're just going to be doing that. If you know how to do other things, hey, please be my guest, help us out, you know.
Here first, and then.
I know we're talking a lot about production, a little bit of pre-production, but at what point, for those of you that don't edit your own films or prefer not to, do you start looking for an editor? I mean, do you try to bring them on early in the project, or is it, okay, it's shot and who do we know?
I brought my editor on early, yeah. Okay.
I'm an editor, so.
I know you are.
My problem with editing is that it's all where you want to end up. So I cut it in Avid first, and then we didn't have a nitrous, so we couldn't out to any kind of quality size. This is back in 2009. So then we're like, oh, we'll recut it again in Final Cut Pro because they can do 2K export. Awesome. So recut the film again, and then of course that one Mac we had went away. So then we're like, oh great, now I cut it a third time. On Premiere, which CS5 I find really, really awesome. I'm not just saying that because I'm getting 10%, I really mean it. And I really think that as time goes we go further and further down the line, the quality of editing software out there is amazing, and being able to suck in all these different formats, no matter what camera you're using, is just crucial to have a good solid platform. But yeah, I got an editor, essentially.
If you don't edit, get one. That's probably like, you know, I think that's the point. Unless you have no access to it, and then you learn how to be an editor. I'm a good editor because I was a bad director, and that's how I started. And you sort of like, oh, now I gotta fix this because I screwed it up. And so I think that was how I got into it. But otherwise, it's like get some, because that's really where the movie's made. And a lot, you know, it is that like you can make something brilliant and have it be completely destroyed in that process, or make something fairly mediocre and have it be great. So make friends with editors if you don't have the money to actually pay an editor, and just try and find people who are learning, but understand that that comes with a learning curve.
A lot of editors are also directors, so there's a director who's working on something, you volunteer on his project, and you say, hey, can you cut this for me on your free time? I'm just saying, you know, like, you don't have to pay him because you already paid him in your labor on his project. You know.
Yeah, and it's also an important marriage, the editor and the director. I mean, I had done the rough cut for mine, so I knew exactly what I wanted. I was not good at it, that's why I'm not an editor, but I knew how I wanted it to be put together. So I had several interviews with different editors, and one of them said, well, you know, you won't be allowed in the room with me while I'm editing. And I was like, well, I think that's not going to work.
What are you doing in there?
I'm doing it myself.
He edits in the nude.
Yeah. So obviously I went with someone else who I felt more comfortable with, and we worked together, and it was really a partnership, and I was very happy with the results. She did a much better job than I could ever do, so it was good.
Okay, right here.
I actually have two questions. My first question is, what editing systems do you actually use? Like, if you're better, I mean, if you're not so good at Avid, if that's the system that you use, could you use like Adobe Premiere? Maybe if you're better at that system for making your movie. And then my second question is for Joseph. Was it like, oh God. We can answer that one first.
Well, that's kind of what I said a second ago, was that I actually cut on all three platforms because certain platforms that I had, certain versions weren't able to put out the final quality that I wanted. So at the end of the day, an edit, it's an edit, and it depends on the person who's using the tool, not the tool itself. Just maybe a little bit harder, a little bit easier, depending on what plugins or this or that you have. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's a comfortability factor, I think. I mean, I used Final Cut 7 for this last one, I think for Brink. I've never used that program, and I've never used Avid either, but a lot of people swear by it, and I think it comes down to comfortability. Yeah. If you're really just comfortable with the platform, then that's the best thing to, because they all are sort of evening out nowadays. You know, they're all kind of really good. I don't know if any of them are really just a huge level up, you know, among other ones. I think it really comes down to, if you're able to use that program, that's the way to go.
I know, like, we were Final Cut, and then they made their huge giant change in their software. Yeah. And so we had, you know, had a lot of time invested in that, but it was like when we looked at what the changes they made were, it's like, you know, we could see that, like, oh, some of this stuff is pretty cool, but in the end it came to, like, there's a ton of loss of control. So we were like, and we went and we moved over to CS5, which has had its own kind of challenges, but I really like that system. I'd endorse that system. It's you get a lot for what you're paying for. But again, I think comfortability is a huge factor.
So you were on 7, and then you went to X, and then you decided, instead of going back to 7, you went over to CS.
Yeah, well, because we need it. Well, being an editing company, we need to be able to be with the software that's going to grow with us. Right. I mean, that's part of it. And Final Cut has basically moved away from the.
It's more consumer now.
I mean, because they basically made it to be like a higher advanced iMovie.
It's a nice toy.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun if you're I mean, there's some cool things to it, especially if you're just starting out. There's some malleability to it that's kind of fun. But it was like, as a program, it wouldn't be able to grow with us. It doesn't service our needs, so we had to move to something that did, and that was CS5. And that was more it. And it's just like, because their culture of their company and the kind of stuff they do is growing in the direction that we want to be, as opposed to Final Cut, which seems to be moving another direction.
You have to work out your pipeline in advance, and if you're a trained editor and you know how to maximize your footage so that everything's rendered in advance, you're fine. But if you're sitting there and you're rendering each clip every time you make an adjustment, then that's probably not the software for you, or you need to find someone who can teach you the right way to use it. So for Avid, for instance, if you're working on red footage, if you don't know how to bring the footage in properly and ingest it, and you don't have all that metadata baked in, like I did, then you have a Final Cut with no information at all, which will never link back to the original footage. You can just take that and throw that away on all your work too. So that's a big problem. And if you don't properly prep your clips in QuickTime form that CS5 can actually see, then you're going to be rendering and rendering over and over and over again, and that goes to Final Cut as well. So, but there is a right way to do it. I just didn't know what it was. You have to prep it in the right the right codec, essentially, so that it is always rendered and it will play in real time, and you can edit in real time. And then when you go to export out, it links back to the original footage, and you keep that quality in place. In my instance, I had 270 shots the entire edit, and each shot had to be replaced 180 times because I have compositors fixing the shot and compositing. And the pipeline is that I give you the shot, you work on it for 2 days, you give it back to me, I put it in, oh, it doesn't work. And I have 8-frame handles. So it has to be able to know what the handles are, which is the extra part you don't actually use, and be able to kick back versions back and forth. So we're on a version 185, I have to be able to see that in the timeline and know to tell her how to make that adjustment. If I didn't use CS5 and I used Avid per se, the ingestion back and forth with DPX files, I know I'm getting kind of technical, would be just daunting. More harder than listening to me talk about it, that's how hard it was. Just saying.
Your follow-up?
Do you think it was a risk for you to enter a music video into the film festival?
That wasn't a risk. That was bravado. We had this very specific task with to do with the TAC Cat. We had been working. The project goes back to last March, where they came to Travis and developed that relationship, and he started working on them, and then he brings me into the project. And I wrote a $60,000 script we had to throw away. And so when we get, by the time we got into the project, it was all very kind of, so we're making this. It was literally made for one person, I would say. And in a certain way, it's like, we want this person to see this music video and see what we can do. And so when we got done with it, we showed it. Everybody we showed just was like lit up when we would show it to them. And we just were kind of like, screw it, all right, let's do it, there was nothing more than that. It had already, and it kind of goes to like the one piece of advice I have is like, make stuff for a reason. A lot of people just kind of go off and make stuff, and that's good, but if you have other things in place that it's like, this is why I'm making this thing, by the time we even entered it into the festival, it had already paid itself off by like a lot. I mean, this thing's already paid off like 3 or 4 times because we knew what we wanted to do, it did it, and then it kept doing more. So in terms of doing that was just like, I like it, maybe someone else will like it.
I'm going to need Joseph and VW's personal information.
Yes.
When can we see the films at the festival, and how might we see them otherwise?
I believe all of us have already played.
Unfortunately, the train has passed.
If you go to travispollard.com, you can see Remarkable. We've got that online. So.
And rareformpictures.com has our trailer. And if you want to go to South Carolina, to Charleston, we'll be screening there in a week. And
Can you say that again?
Yeah, Rareform Pictures, just like it sounds.com is our company website. We have a trailer for Wallenda on there. And we'll be at a couple festivals in the country. If you ask me nicely in the lobby, I'll show it to you. Let's be honest, right?
TravisPollard.com. It's 2 L's.
And mine has its own Facebook page, so if you go on the film is not on there obviously, but if you message me, I can send you a link, unless you're going to be in Barcelona next week or
I'm going to Barcelona.
Or New York.
Is it McCall?
Yes.
We're in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
They're going to Barcelona.
Where in New York?
It's called B Film Festival.
Okay.
It's an underground film festival. Never been, but sounds cool.
Barcelona sounds better.
It's awesome. You get to go to Savannah.
We applied to that.
Did you get in?
I've got 5 people, maybe 7. I think SCAD grads worked on the film, so we're waiting to hear back how many arms they can twist to get us in there. So we'll find out.
You might have one more year.
Awesome.
I roommated with the entertainment director.
What was your number again? Honey, it's work related. It's work related. I'm producing. I'm producing.
The film festival there is great. I mean, so.
And the students that SCAD creates are amazing. Okay, guys? Okay. Yeah.
Do you get 10% on that too?
No, I get nothing. It's a school thing.
What about the other 2?
Our film has a Facebook page as well. I think it's facebook.com/Curfew Film, and we're playing in Macau. We're playing in Florida and Nashville and Tribeca upcoming. And the teaser trailer is on there, not the film, obviously. That's another thing too that we haven't really discussed, which is when you have your film online for anyone to see, festivals, most festivals won't take your film anymore, which is, and that's sort of the thing about online is it's such a great medium, but if you're going through the festival circuit, you can't have it be anywhere like that, or they won't let you in, especially the bigger festivals. So you kind of have to have, when you're making films, you have to have a strategy even before you get into it about what you're going to do at the tail end, because once you put it online for anyone to see, it becomes harder to get into a lot of festivals. So most of these films, I imagine, you wouldn't be able to see online, but if anyone here wins an award at the festival, I think they repeat the films tomorrow. So check it out. I don't know.
And there's ways to do.
I'm rooting for everyone.
Yeah.
Me too. There's ways to do like Vimeo. You can upload a Vimeo and put a password protection thing on there so that it's not out to everybody, but let's say she wants to see it. I can send her a private link with a password that only she can see, and then moments later I can just change the password and that link will no longer work. So there's kind of ways around it.
And I feel like that's become kind of a standard now, is just to have a Vimeo link, password protected link. I mean, I feel like most people have some sort of password protected Vimeo link for that exact purpose, or if you're going to be using it as a calling card, but you're also going through the festival circuit, it's good to have that link there because you can send it to industry or certain people, whatever.
I like Vimeo and YouTube, Vimeo more so, but the one thing with Vimeo that's really great is that, let's say you do a trailer and your logo's in the front, and then you like trademark your logo, so you want that little R and you want to update it. You don't have to take it all the way down again and back up. You can actually just update the file, and everyone's link who you send it to still is live. It still works. It just plays the new file. So that's kind of a fun little trick that you don't learn until you do it, but I definitely put my...
YouTube just introduced, though, the trimming and all those...
right?
Very,
I mean, what time is it?
Yeah, they're
so
very
slow.
Yeah, I know. They're very, very sort of primal editing options within the link that anyone has already seen or liked or anything like that. But you can't swap out.
And then if you post your Vimeo link on Facebook or whatever, and then you change your Vimeo footage and you update a new update, all those links will change as well, and you'll see all your adjustments on everything across with your friends posting their Facebook page and this on and so forth. It's a really nice way to keep control of your footage, what gets out there. It's great.
And you can still post like photos and things like that, or like a trailer. Like we have a Facebook page. I think it's Speakeasy. Speakeasy Factory. There it is. But yeah, I mean, we post like any festival we go to, stills from the shoot itself. Anything that there's like an outing, we always try to post like different galleries for people to see. And again, like going back to the vendors and extras and actors and cast and crew and all of that, we always try to include those folks on it too, so they know and they can track the film's progress.
And we probably have time for one more question. Anyone else? Yes.
I did the website for Not Your Time. I also helped with some of the marketing and stuff for Twitter and Facebook and other things.
Great film, by the way.
Thank you. I'll make sure Jay knows. Is there anything that you guys feel that is more important than, like you said, you're on Facebook. Do you have a website as well? Do you also do Twitter? Do you also do all the other marketing things as well? Just tell me about what you do.
We have a website that's under construction, and what we did in the past is we had a website for each project we did. So we did a feature film a couple years ago called And the Winner Is. It's a political mockumentary. Winneris.net's the website for that, and eventually when we get our Speakeasy Factory main page up, those will all be connected to it. We do have a Twitter account, and I will tell you that if anybody follows us on it, I have never sent anything out from it. We've got amazing people. And people tell me like, oh, that was awesome. And I'm like, what was it? Because I'm like, that's not my forte at all. So, Luis Cabrera, who's here, and Greg Wilson, who's not here, they are, just a lifesaver with that stuff. So, anything we've got going on, they'll usually Twitter about it, and they save us a ton of time. And, me having to call everyone I know saying, how do I do this? Because it's just not my thing.
We did the website in Wix, and there's a new thing out that they're updating. So, because some of the stuff that's on the web doesn't work on the phone anymore. So, it's like if you want to watch the promo, you can watch it on the web, but when you try to watch it on the phone, it doesn't work. So we're rebuilding.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we just kind of got our learning curve on that one. We were very lucky in that Rachel Hoskins from Attack Cat is quite an astute marketer herself, and so she sort of guided us through. And Travis was able to create a web page, a nice little, very simple thing. We then adapted that web page to the Facebook page, and just sort of generally, we didn't do Twitter either because we're terrible with that stuff. I can do Facebook. That's all I have patience for. So now it's just kind of like you cover what you can cover, but you realize that once you start getting into it, that's a whole other full-time job.
And updating constantly.
Yeah.
So, anybody needs help, let me know.
So we created a website for Reform Pictures, and we have a production category. So whatever we're producing at the time or project we're developing, all the links are there. And then we have accounts with Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. It's really great. And then we base all of our mediums out of Vimeo. So like I said, if you want to update them, it all plays on every mobile app or phone or what have you.
Well, that's what I like about Wix too, is that when you update anything and you save it and you say, okay, now post it. As soon as you post it and you say approve, it brings up a link for Facebook and Twitter automatically.
That's
and
great.
Say, do you want to update those too? And you go, sure. And it goes boom.
The social networking and keeping your phone up to date is everything, in this day and age. And I feel like just don't sleep and eat as much.
Anything else?
One thing I want to say, one last thing, is it's about film festivals. There are plenty of film festivals, way too many film festivals here and abroad, and they can cost quite a bit of money. I think it's important to do your homework. When you're targeting a film festival, try to see what they played before, what kind of films they like, so that you know what film festivals you're sending your film to. Don't do what I did. I sent to pretty much all of them. No, not all of them.
You had like 20,000 though, that's great.
No, I think I submitted to 35, so it was still a big number. I mean, it's a good chunk of money if you count it. It's like $1,000. So that's without the DVDs. That's just paying the fee to enter. So I think it's really important to do your homework and kind of know exactly where you want to send your film.
Yeah. Eventually, they'll start asking you, and then they'll waive the fee.
They actually are now.
Yeah, I would say know where it's going before you start.
Yeah.
That's you got to come up with a plan for where everything's going to happen. And like for us, we knew what we wanted to do, and then we happened to do the festival thing and be successful with that. So just know where you're going.
Okay. With that, I'd like to thank our panelists for being here.
Scheich, we have Regine Richards, we have Joseph Jurecki, Christina Grozik, and Shawn Christenson. So thanks again.